Hey guys, for today's video, I will be guiding you over Lynn's kits, wedges, melee weapons, ranged weapons, consonance weapon wedges, teams, and her introns to show you her best build. Starting off with her kits, for her skill, she deals pyro damage and inflicts delaceration debuff onto enemies, which is a debuff that implants up to 10 stacks onto an enemy when Lynn uses ranged weapon attacks on those enemies. This debuff will deal a ton of pyro damage after the 8-second cooldown ends, based on the amount of stacks on the enemy. This skill is going to be pretty good for her DPS, for it allows Lynn to do a good amount of damage even when she doesn't have enough sanity to summon her consonance weapon through her ultimate. For her ultimate, she switches to her consonance weapon, Hansel and Gretel, and she can only use her skills and her preferred choice of attacks, ranged attacks. She fires at every enemy that is in the general direction she's facing, and she consumes sanity continuously when she's in her ultimate state, meaning that she's going to be a very sanity hungry character that's gonna need good sanity management to be used well. She also gains up to 35 attack speed stacks every 0.2 seconds every time she does a ranged attack, which is going to be good for being able to spam a ton of ranged attacks before her ultimate or talent duration ends. She's also immune to hit stun, meaning that no matter how heavy an enemy's attack is, she will not flinch and she will not have to deactivate then reactivate her ultimate again to get back to her vantage points. For her talents, she gains 1 out of 6 stacks whenever she isn't firing, which are consumed and increase her damage by 15% each when she starts firing. This talent is going to be really good when she activates her ultimate at full stacks, but because of its 6.9 second duration, you're gonna need a bunch of skill duration to make the most of it. For her talent upgrade, she instantly activates delaceration damage when the stacks are maxed out, which is really good since it saves you up to 8 seconds when fighting an enemy with laceration. For her other talent upgrade, she increases attack by 50% for nearby pyro characters and herself if she's a combat partner, meaning that she's going to be a really powerful and supportive sub DPS with pyro characters like Hellfire. For her skill priority, you're gonna want to level up her ultimate first because it provides the majority of her damage, then her talent because it provides massive buffs that are used when she's in her ultimate, and then her skill because it offers very little DPS compared to her ultimate and talent. Not only that, but it becomes practically useless once she's at I6. Anyways, how do you actually apply all of this information? Well, all of this means is that you'll want to wait for her talent buffs to max out, then use her skill to implant laceration if she doesn't have her I6, then use her ultimate and spam as many range attacks as possible until her talent buffs run out so that you can maximize her damage and maintain her sanity for more ultimates later on. You can also just use her ultimate and then use her skill during her ultimate, but because your mobility is restricted during your ultimate, it'll be a bit more difficult to implant laceration and not waste sanity using your skill. Now, this is mostly for bosses. For farming, you'd be better off skipping the skill since you'll most likely just hit a handful out of tens of enemies, whereas with your ultimate range attacks, you can hit anything as long as it's not behind objects and it's in the general direction you're facing. Not only that, but again, at I6, using her skill is practically worthless. For her wedges, she's gonna want the Vigilant or the Sidestep for her core, because they provide good defensive buffs and increase her tolerance cap, the Prime Morale for more damage when her HP is above 50%, the Griffin's Midnight Sun for a lot more damage since a pyro attack buff increases her attack more than just a regular attack buff, and skill duration for her talent buffs and ultimate duration, the Devouring Wildfire for upwards to 120% attack, which she can easily get when firing multiple times at multiple enemies, and All Blaze Eternities for a bunch of skill damage and skill duration for her talent buffs and ultimate duration. These wedges will be good for her damage since they provide a ton of attack and skill damage, and they'll be really good for her skill duration since they provide up to 102% skill duration for her buffs, meaning that her talent buffs and her ultimate will last way longer than usual since they both scale off of skill duration. For Blaze Eternity alternatives, you can use the 5-star Sirens' Wings for maintaining a lot more sanity. You can also use the Blaze Inspo since it's as good for her ultimate sanity cost, but it won't be as good as the Blaze Eternity because it doesn't do anything for her talent duration. Also, when going up against 2 or less enemies, the Sphinx's Duel would also be a good alternative because it provides more damage. For her best melee weapons, the Wayne Wraith would be her best because it provides 36% skill damage, which is what her Consonance weapon scales off of. For alternatives, the Blade Ember Glow would be good because it increases the character's attack by 120%, and the Pyro Thirst and the Tether Slash would also be good because they provide 36% duration for her talent buffs and ultimate duration. For her ranged weapons, the Blue Current Pulse will be good because it provides 30% skill damage, which is what her Consonance weapon scales off of, and it buffs the dual pistols Lynn can use during her ultimate downtime. For other alternatives, passives, the X-Chris Duo would be good because it provides 48% skill damage. The Red Husk would be good because it increases the character's attack by 120%. The Ratchet would be good because it provides 73% multi-shots, and the Steel Breaker would be good because it increases skill duration by 36% for her talent buffs and ultimate duration. For her Consonance Weapon Wedges, she's gonna want the Fold Over for more multi-shots, which for some reason for Lynn's Consonance Weapon just translates to more damage dealt. She's also gonna want the Celerity for attack speed, which is going to be really good when paired up with the attack speed stack she gets during her ultimate, the Impetus for attack, and the Penetration for spike attack, since it's multiplicative with regular attack, meaning that you're gonna want a good balance of the two to maximize your damage. For her teams, she's gonna want characters that increase skill damage, weapon damage, and crit because that's what her Consonance Weapon scales off of. Thus, she'll work well with Daphne, who provides a 40% crit chance buff, with Truffle and Filbert, who provides an 89% damage buff, with the Fox Hunter, who provides a 51% weapon damage boost, and with Tabithy, who can increase skill damage by 52%. She'll also work well as a combat partner with pyro characters like Hellfire because her talent upgrade increases attack by 50% for nearby pyro characters and herself. For her I6, she gains 6 talent stacks when the battle starts, and it increases her morale by 35% for 60 seconds, which is only decent since all this means is that you can save 6 seconds at the start of battle, which you typically will be able to do even without this Intron, especially if you're farming, but you do get a really good morale damage boost that'll let you do a lot more damage for the first minute of battle, which will let your typical 1 minute and 30-second farming runs only last a minute. For her I2, it reduces her damage taken by 30% when she's in her ultimate, and it decreases the rate at which she gains stacks from 0.2 seconds down to 0.06 seconds, meaning that the morale boost she gets from her prime morale and the morale boost she gets from her I1 will be a lot easier to capitalize off of because she won't be losing too much HP, and she'll be able to get her stacks up 330% quicker, meaning that you'll be able to spam far more range attacks during her talent duration during her ultimate. For her I4, it increases damage dealt to targets with a HP percentage lower than 70% by 35%, meaning that for the majority of the time, she's going to be doing 35% more damage to bosses, and she'll be able to 2 to 3 shot any regular enemy. For her I6, her ultimate attacks implant her skills as debuff when she triggers a bonus effect with them, which is going to increase her damage tremendously because she'll be able to apply laceration onto a lot more enemies, and she won't have to use Obscenity to implant laceration with her skill. Now, should you build Lynn? Well, after playing around with her for a while, I believe that Lynn may be one of the best DPS in the game. She's insanely powerful against a large amount of enemies since her AoE is massive, and her single target damage is also powerful since you can just spam her range attacks. Now, the only thing I believe Lynn lacks is comfort because of her sanity management. Unlike with Lisbel, with Lynn, you always have to be conscious of how much sanity you're using, because if you run out of sanity, Lynn can't really do anything other than just run around waiting to pick up sanity items. Still, this isn't really a hardwired problem with her kit or performance, but rather her comfort level, and managing her sanity isn't even that hard to do. Thus, I for one would definitely continue to build my Lynn, for she will definitely carry me into the endgame content. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you wish to know more, you can click on the video to the right. With that being said, goodbye.